Modern women have mastered the art of rejecting you without ever saying no, of getting you to go away happy before you even realize that they never wanted you in the first place. And I have a story from my own personal experience that illustrates this better than anything I could explain. But before I tell it from the beginning, here's a little taste of what's to come. Guys, I'm really sad and disappointed in myself. I stopped by to say hi to the cafe girl again, and I talked to her. She's really nice, but I had the perfect opportunity to ask her out and, exchange numbers. But because I'm sleep deprived and because I feel really bad about myself and I feel like such a loser, I didn't do it. I missed my chance. I'll probably never have another chance. Most people say that when a girl isn't on social media or she keeps her Instagram private, that it's a massive green flag, that it means they'll be more loyal. But what if I were to tell you that this could be a double-edged sword for unwanted guys like us? Women who prioritize privacy can also be the hardest to reach, and often the most fond of playing mind games and giving men the runaround. By the time this story's over, you'll know exactly what I mean. But let me back up a bit. This all started a few weeks earlier at a cafe near my house. I spent weeks going to this same cafe, spending money I didn't have, sacrificing time I couldn't spare, all to talk to one girl, a 6'5" girl. The only female that tall I've ever seen in this county that isn't already taken. Keep in mind, I'm a little under 5'4". And I thought things were finally going somewhere, until they weren't. Here's what you need to know about this place. It's expensive, organic, full of tall rich people, in a very small Old West-style town out in the woods, out of the way, and not somewhere I'd normally go. But I had a business reason to be there too, so it wasn't entirely out of pocket. And that was where this 6'5" young lady worked. We'll call her Violet. I only knew about her because someone tipped me off. Someone who knows I like tall girls and wanted to play matchmaker. So I started going in, playing it off like I was just prospecting for sales and getting work done. The first time I went in, it went way better than expected. I got super lucky with my seat, right next to her at the bar where she made her drinks. We talked on and off for 3 whole hours as I was writing a reply to my dad's letter from prison. She seemed super engaged with the conversation, asking me questions, smiling, and openly sharing a lot about herself. Almost everyone told me, even my therapist, that I should have asked for her number right then and there. And they were probably right, because apparently a woman can feel like she's fallen for you one day and then think you're a total creep the next. It's always best to act fast. But I was getting conflicting advice. And I decided to take the advice of the person who tipped me off in the first place and just wait, to try and build a friendship first, rather than going straight for a date. Big mistake. So before this first impression, I had no idea when she worked or when her shift was. So I had spent about 3 weeks going to this cafe just to see if she was working there at whatever time I went. I went on a Friday one week, a Sunday another week, going there at different times in the afternoon. So I had a lot invested in this. And the first time I went over there, I didn't want to spend any money, so I just went in and looked at the menu and all that kind of stuff. And it was super awkward because it seemed like the manager or the people that were working there could sense my strange vibes. They asked me questions, I had to explain that I didn't know what I wanted, and I was just looking around. And I just felt like they were giving me weird looks from the start. And that whole first experience just put a bad taste in my mouth and made me really uncomfortable. And after that first awkward encounter, the lady who tipped me off let me know that this girl, Violet, works there on Saturdays. The problem is, Saturday has always been my biggest work day, at least for the last year or so. So I didn't want to go in there on Saturday. So for the second time, I went in there on a Friday around 4:30 p.m. I just remember feeling really frustrated and discouraged that I had sacrificed so much time. Like, I've got very little free time and I'm doing this. I just thought to myself, like, I guess I just don't have time to ask girls out. And it really does kind of feel that way. But the second time I went in there, I saw the same manager lady again, and I knew she recognized me. And she just looks very curious and suspicious of me. So I thought, there is no way I can go in here and not buy something this time. That would just be too weird. So I bought the cheapest cornbread piece they had on the shelf there, the display. Turned out to be delicious, by the way. But I decided to justify my presence there a bit more by having a little conversation with this manager lady regarding business. I'm really known in the local area for making this unique, highly concentrated, alcohol-free Blue Lotus tincture. And it's really popular. If you're interested in trying it, hit me up on Instagram. I'll try to link it in the description. So I conjured up my sales skills, got to know this lady a little bit, learned her position, showed her my business Instagram page. We talked there for like 30 minutes. I learned a lot about this lady and came away with what I thought was possibly a really good ally in the situation. But yeah, at that point, when I left the building and got into my car, I was feeling like I was going to have to put a spreadsheet together. Mark off all the days of the week and the times that I've gone and she's not there. I mean, I'm a pretty unlucky guy, but fortunately, I was able to switch my schedule around a bit and go in there on Saturday the next time. And that was the one interaction that went exceptionally well, where everything was on my side. See, timing, the place wasn't busy, but somehow in my naive brain, I thought that it would be like that every time. So, of course, the next time I went, everything was completely different. I went there. She wasn't working in the front. I spent $12. I waited and waited and waited. And then I finally saw her. She was working in the back. She was lugging dishes around. And then I was able to say hi. And, she's just kind of going back and forth. But this other lady was doing the job that she had last week. And, it was just like wondering if I was going to get my chance at all. And she did eventually come up and take over. They had this other woman doing barista duty instead. She was honestly more facially attractive than Violet, but she was only about as tall as me, so I wasn't really interested at all. Regardless, I tried to be nice to her, but she just seemed really, really standoffish and kind of unfriendly. And I had a lot of really unsettling conspiratorial thoughts that night. Is this girl here to protect the other girl from me? Did they give her dish duty to stop the likelihood of me coming back and harassing her again? So yeah, I guess all the waiting paid off because eventually Violet did come to the front on barista duty. Now at this point, I was pretty happy and just assuming that Violet was going to be working barista duty for the rest of the evening. So I didn't feel like I was in a rush to have to woo her and rizz her up. I wanted to keep things slow and natural. Trouble is, the other 30-something barista lady decided to sit 2 or 3 seats down from me at the bar, giving us no privacy whatsoever in our conversation. And on top of all that, every 2 minutes they were getting a new complicated Flippuccino order. And as I awkwardly tried to make conversation, I saw them locking eyes and looking at each other like, "Can you believe this guy? Such a weirdo." And it's like, bitch, I'm just trying my best to make a conversation here. But the main thing that made me hella fucking nervous about this whole situation was the fact that I was terrified of being labeled some kind of creep. Now, I may look young, but I'm well aware of the fact that I'm going to be 30 in like 6 months. Meanwhile, this girl was like mid-college age. Now, I would normally consider that an inappropriate age gap, but considering the lack of single tall women in the area to choose from and the reality that she is a legal adult, I personally set those feelings aside. But I knew what other people might be thinking. You've got two 30-something women here, possibly feeling like they need to protect this younger woman from perverted creeps like me, trying to have friendly conversations with them and make friends. Apparently it was just the regular lady was on break, and I was able to talk to her a little bit for like 20 minutes or so. It was a lot more awkward this time. It felt a lot more forced. Um, I was trying to be funny and, interesting and ask a couple questions, but I kept seeing her like make eye contact with the other lady, because the other barista, and that's where I figured out that the other barista is usually the main one, and last week, the tall girl was just taking over for her, and this other barista was just taking a 20-minute break, and she decided to sit and eat her food, like, 3 seats down from me with nobody in between, listening in on the conversation the whole time. And I really, really wanted to ask if she wanted to hang out, and, I tried to ask what she likes to do for fun, what she's into, and she's not really into much. So as you can see, I was trying my best. But unfortunately, things went downhill after that. But it just made me really uncomfortable because this girl, as I was talking to her, she's looking over at the other lady, just kind of like, you know, like that, and it made me feel really unwanted and like like they thought I was weird or something, and just made me want to stop talking, and I kind of did stop talking. I talked a little bit, but I kind of lost motivation, and I sacrifice a lot to go here. I've been sacrificing a lot. I'm busy as hell. I could work 7 days a week and still not get everything done, and I'm sacrificing it to come over here and potentially meet my dream girl and have a life worth living. And this is what I get for it? And treated like a weirdo? I don't know, like, I don't know if I wanna do it anymore, but, um so despite feeling defeated and afraid to ask her out in front of this other lady, after about 15 minutes of awkward conversation, I had come up with a plan. I found out that Violet likes hiking. Basic, I know. And I remembered from our first conversation that she lives literally 3 minutes away from me in a little town that has a beautiful, flat, long trail that goes through it. Very well traveled, open, public, nothing sketchy to it. It would be a relaxing, enjoyable, low stakes, inexpensive activity for us to take part in where I can get to know her. And then I finally realized, hey, I should ask her if she wants to go walk on that trail in the town. But literally like 2 minutes after I came up with this plan, she stopped working the front and the other lady took over again. So I ended up getting really depressed when I realized there was no longer any point standing next to this unwelcoming, unfriendly 30-something-year-old barista lady. I decided to take what was left of my milkshake sample and go and find some comfy chair in the corner of the other room where I just curled up into a ball and sat there feeling really depressed while I looked at my phone and messaged people for the next 30 or 40 minutes. I mean, I wasn't crying or anything, but I definitely felt like I was on the verge of it. At one point, Violet actually passed by and asked if I was okay, and I smiled at her and told her everything was just fine and I was just tired. Probably should have asked her out then and there, because no one else was nearby. I just figured she was too busy because she was walking all over the place and the situation was awkward and I was just scared. I'm probably less afraid of being caught in a shootout than I am of trying to ask out a girl at her place of work, especially when you've got other women constantly hovering over you, profiling you, and treating you like a criminal. And this is something I've experienced multiple times before. So if you want to hear some brutal stories from my in-person sales experience, of women-owned businesses showing prejudice toward me because I'm a man or I'm a short man. I made this video about it called Why Men Stop Trying in Life, and I'll link it in the description. But yeah, that whole time sitting depressed in that chair, I was just texting people about the situation, trying to get advice from anyone I could, not really getting anything done that was important that I needed to actually do. But I was cold and lethargic, didn't want to get up. And I probably looked weird to Violet for doing that, like she could feel the angst. But yeah, I was hoping it might not be too late because at that moment, after talking with a few people, I decided that maybe I shouldn't try to ask her out on a date on the trail, but to kind of ask her if she wants to walk on the trail with me, like as a friend. Mainly because the person who tipped me off about her, due to the age difference between us, she thinks it would be a better idea if I try to ease into it with just friendship first, so I don't scare her off. And before, I didn't really like the idea of doing that, but at this point, it felt like the best option, considering how it seemed like everyone else working here was looking at me with suspicion, except the chef, of course. And I thought the manager lady liked me, and I think maybe at this point she still did. Unfortunately, it seems like that would change a little further down the line as well. But at this point, it seemed like it was just the other barista who seemed to have a hate sausage for me. But literally 1 minute after I settled on my plan, I see her walk into this closet in plain sight of me and come out with a purse. I thought that she was just grabbing somebody's purse from the lost and found or something. So I waited and waited and waited some more. But she was gone. I never saw her again that night. No goodbye, nothing. Not even a look. Not even a wave. And she knew I was over there. I was like 15 feet away from that closet, sitting in that chair. So I built up the courage to ask that manager lady about it. I felt like I had enough goodwill with her for her to brush aside any weird vibes from my question. So I went up and asked her if Violet left. And of course, the answer was yes. And when I heard that, it really stung. So in that moment, I was just so devastated that I looked at this manager lady and I was like, oh, really? She left without saying goodbye. Is that just something she does, or? And of course, the manager lady tells me that leaving without saying goodbye is something she does all the time, and that it wasn't anything personal. So I made some joke about the Irish goodbye, but I'm sure she could see the hurt in my eyes, because it kind of felt like I was getting this look of pity a little bit. And to be honest with you, I felt like this lady was lying to me. I felt like she made that up on the spot to try and keep me from getting upset. That no, Violet does not leave without saying goodbye all the time. Because my memory might be off, but I'm pretty sure I saw her say goodbye to someone on the way out. One of her coworkers or something. But yeah, when I got back out and into my car, I was feeling really down because, I feel like if a girl likes me, she would say goodbye. So I went home and came back next Saturday. And that time, she wasn't there at all. So in order to not come off as a stalker, I decided to buy one of their $6 cups of coffee that they don't offer refills for. Bought a $5 pastry too. Waste of goddamn money. So after a while of sipping on caffeine at 4:30 p.m. and getting jittery and getting a sugar high from the donut, I decided to quit wasting my own time and ask this manager lady what the deal is. Like, why isn't she here? And of course, I knew if I asked about this girl again, this manager lady is going to know that I have a crush on her. It's just too obvious. But at this point, I didn't care, and I was hoping that she would actually be supportive of it and maybe help facilitate it a little bit or be on my side somehow. What I specifically asked is if Violet was sick that day, to try and come off as casual as possible. She started to give me an answer, and then she cut herself off a little bit and started to say something else, or at least it felt that way. She ended up telling me that Violet wasn't sick at all. She was just fine. Apparently, the place was just really busy earlier in the morning, and they had her come in for an early shift instead. So I just said okay and left. And I remember kicking myself when I got back to the car because I wanted to ask her to say hi to her for me. Looking back, it probably just would have made her think I was even more of a creep. Yeah, I just have this sneaking suspicion that she's actually like that. I don't think it had anything to do with them being busier in the morning. I think it had to do with her asking to have her shift changed so she wouldn't have to talk to me. Let me know if you think I'm delusional or something, but I've had bad experiences with women, and I think that's what happened because it just doesn't make sense, you know? That said, a few days later, I talked to this one guy who used to work in that same field, and he says that random last minute shift changes are very common. But still, a lot of other people I was talking to felt like it didn't add up either. So I decided to take 2 or 3 weeks off to get my taxes done. I have very complicated taxes and I was overwhelmed by them for a long time. So I just took this excuse to not go over there for a while. And in that period of time, I kind of just decided that I wasn't going to try as hard with this girl. But I decided that I did want to take them up on the business connection side of things. Because I neglected to mention this before, but one of those previous times when I went over there and Violet wasn't there, I was actually able to meet the owner of the whole business. And we seemed to get on really well. The manager lady had told her about me, and I was really thrilled about that because she was really interested in my product. So that gave me a good reason and a good cover story for going over there all the time. So yeah, by this point, post-tax filing, all I had on my mind was business, especially considering that day I was extremely sleep deprived. Like I had only gotten like 2 hours of sleep the night before, but I had to go over here this day because I was in town anyway to deliver an order to another shop further down the street. And I knew that I needed to check in with this other cafe anyway to see how they liked the samples and what the next steps were to proceed. And if Violet was there, great, I would say hi. And normally, I would avoid doing any complex social task like this or any kind of sales deal while I'm on 2 hours of sleep because I always end up fucking up something. But when I was in there, the manager lady was acting really standoffish and like avoiding eye contact, and it was really weird. And she was like walking away from me as I was talking, but I managed to ask her if the owner was there, and I was told she wasn't. And then all of a sudden, Violet in her towering form, looking down on me like a mountain over there with her broad shoulders, smiles right at me and says,
Hey, Chadlet, it's good to see you. It's been a few weeks.
and maybe I was delusional, but I just took that extreme friendliness as a really good sign that, hey, maybe if I were to ask her out, she would actually respond positively. And as I was talking to the manager, she went and walked off. And after I talked to the manager, I was like, wow, I got to go talk to her real quick. I got to see how she's been. And this was like the first time I've ever been able to actually stand next to her that close. And her hair was glistening. The sunlight was coming in through the windows behind her, covering her towering form in this glowing halo, just casting this shadow down on me as she looked down upon me with this angelic smile. Her shoulders were literally above my head. I just remember feeling so intimidated, but in a very erotic sort of way. And it made it really hard for me to speak. So I just asked her the basic small talk questions of how she's been, what she's been up to, how's school. And she asked me what I've been up to. I talked to her about the taxes. I asked her about her taxes. But yeah, I was just too much of a coward. I was too tired. The real problem was I didn't expect to see her when I went in there, so I didn't put any thought into what I would say if I did see her, how I would seize that moment. Because at that point, I had just given up. I wanted to ask her out so bad, even if it was just as a friend, like I said, so that I could build up to something. But I didn't. I on 2 hours of sleep. I got to have some mercy on myself. Cowered away, said goodbye, and left. And I felt like such a fucking loser, you guys. I mean, I was like hanging my head, walking around that little town, thinking I was about to cry. Just felt like a worthless piece of shit that will never, ever get a girlfriend because I don't feel good enough about myself to actually build up the courage to try. Um, I just don't have the confidence anymore. I'm a complete loser. I don't think I'll ever be able to do it until I have money, and even then, I'm probably gonna go bald and feel bad about that. So it's hopeless for me. I just feel totally hopeless. Like I can't even do it, even when it's the perfect opportunity. I don't know what to say. I had actually scheduled to have a call with my cousin about some family issues that were going on as I was in this little town. And this phone call ended up going on for an hour and a half. In fact, I think I got on the phone before I went into the cafe, right after I left the shop that I had dropped off the order at. So yeah, I called my cousin back up for us to finish the conversation, and I was just on the verge of tears and I couldn't hold it back anymore. So I ended up telling her what had just happened, and my cousin coached me and talked me up and gave me the courage that I needed to go back in there and give it a shot because this might be my last opportunity for all I know. And she might say yes. So she helped me refine the plan of what I was going to say. But even so, being on 2 hours of sleep, being nervous, feeling like a weirdo walking back in there after I left just to talk to Violet again, I knew how I would look. But I just thought, hey, if I fuck the whole thing up and look really awkward, if a girl likes you, she will find that endearing. She'll see you nervous, blushing, stumbling over your words, and think that it's cute. And I had decided that if this place wanted to cut ties with me business-wise over this, that I was willing to accept that, just to have a chance to be with this girl. And I swear to God, when I went back in there, those two women, the 35-year-old barista and the manager lady, my instinct was right because they were looking at me like fucking literally raising eyebrows and giving me sideways glances just for coming in again. And I just decided to straight up tell him, hey, there was something I wanted to say to Violet that I forgot to say, you know? And they seemed to accept it, but they were also looking at me like I was a freak. Made for a really uncomfortable introduction to the situation. Ended up having to settle for a subpar opportunity, walking up to her as she's at the cash register when the manager had just gone around the corner and the other lady was like 10, 15 feet away. I mean, it felt like timing a tactical operation. I mean, at any moment, somebody else, a customer, one of these other people might come around and hear us. And this whole time, I just felt like I was kicking myself for not being prepared for the perfect opportunity I had the first time I went in there. But at least I was able to leave that place feeling like the job was done, like I got a huge weight off my chest. Even though she didn't seem enthusiastic at all, I still had some delusional, misguided hope. Guys, I'm shaking. I just went back in to that shop and I went ahead and went up to her because I saw that there was an opportunity. And I said, hey, that trail in the town where she's at, where we both live? Have you been on it? And she's like, yeah, I've been on that trail. I was like, yeah, it's a nice trail, isn't it? Um, I was gonna go walking on there sometime in the next couple weeks. And I just wanted to ask, like, would you like to join me, perhaps? And she says, maybe, I'm really busy, but I might be able to figure something out. And I was like, okay, great. Well, could I get your phone number? And she said, yeah. Or no, she didn't say yeah. She said, well, are you on Instagram? And she was like, and I was like, yeah, I'm on Instagram. And I said, I thought you didn't have Instagram because that's what she told me last time. And she says, well, I re-downloaded it. So I was like, okay, what's your Instagram? And then she said, here, I'll look it up for you. So she looked up her Instagram, and I gave her my card with my Instagram on it. And she followed me on there. Or no, she didn't follow me. I followed her. And she said she'd follow me when she gets home. Now, what I think's going to happen is she's going to not follow me when she gets home. And she didn't want to give me her phone number because she's actually not interested, and she's just trying to reject me politely. And that's why she said maybe. So I'm really not feeling too good about this, but I was really awkward. I'm not good at doing this at all. And at that point, deep down, I already knew what was going to happen next. And if you've been paying attention to this story, you probably know too. Guys, I was right. Things did not go well at all. I came home, I looked at the follow request, I saw that the button was back to saying follow instead of requested, and I thought, okay, it might be glitching again. So I pressed follow again, and then 10 minutes later I checked back, and instead of saying requested, it's back to saying follow. And I know that she's home right now. So she's intentionally rejecting my follow request after I gave her my phone and she typed in her name and sent the follow request on my behalf, which is absolutely absurd because I talk to women all the time, young women my age or otherwise that I may or may not be interested in, who would accept my follow request and follow me back and just be friends, if not anything else, or just acquaintances. So the fact that she thought I was that bad, that she should reject my follow request, not follow my business account back, she must think I'm a total creep. I don't know what I did wrong. Now, to give you even more context about what just went down, back when we had our first meeting, the only one that went well, I had talked to her about my business and about my Instagram account and showed it to her, and she seemed genuinely intrigued. So I ended up asking her if she had an Instagram account, and her answer was that she used to have an Instagram account, but she deactivated it. And I pretty much believed her at the time, even though I had a little bit of suspicion that she was lying to me. When I gave her my business card, which had my Instagram account on it, she even said that I would be the first person that she follows as soon as she reactivates her Instagram account. So keep that in mind when you think about what just happened in the last clip. If she was so enthusiastic, or if she really truly did like me back and was attracted to me, doesn't it seem like she would have gone out and followed me as soon as she reactivated her account like she said she would? And that thought kind of hovered around a little bit in my mind while I was having this interaction with her. And a lot of people, especially women that are on the feminist side of the spectrum, like to tell me that me and every man should listen to those instincts. And if something that you're about to do or something you're about to say to a woman that you're attracted to seems like it might be off or seems like it might come off as creepy, then it probably will. And that those instincts are most likely right. But the problem with that is, and I'd like to hear what your guys' feelings are about this, is that guys like me have had so many bad experiences being cruelly and brutally rejected throughout our lives from a fairly young age and subsequently labeled a creep or a stalker that we've become overly cautious. Like we got beaten puppy syndrome. Now, I shared a few of these brutal rejection stories in previous videos, so I'll link those in the description. But thanks to these bad experiences, I basically have that instinct all the time, no matter what I'm going to do or say. I can always bend and twist and do mental gymnastics, picturing this catastrophic turn of events in my mind that will end up with me getting brutally rejected and labeled as a creep and have my reputation ruined. But you see, if I listened to those instincts every single time, I would never ask out another woman for the rest of my life. But how the hell are guys like us supposed to know when these instincts are right or wrong? Like, when do we follow them and when do we not? It's not as easy as these feminists think, especially if you're neurodivergent. Do you guys have trouble reading these instincts, or is it just me? To reflect on this story, there are a few key points I've extracted that it helps to illustrate. One, of course, is that as a short guy, the odds are not in your favor, especially with a woman who's over a foot taller than you. And if you're below average attractiveness, women will be more likely to label you as a dangerous creep. Even if you're smaller, weaker, and over a foot shorter than them, they'll treat you as more of a threat than a far more physically imposing man who could actually hurt them, but they're more attracted to. Another key takeaway is this. Normally, Instagram is a great way to develop a relationship over time. But if a girl's wary about giving you her number and then offers her Instagram, especially after previously telling you that she deactivated it and saying that she'll follow you if she ever reactivates, that's a bad sign. If she ghosts you or doesn't follow back, that's one thing. But if her Insta is private and she literally denies your follow request, you know it's over. You were just strung along for weeks, possibly just to milk you for tips, and rejected without her ever even having to be clear about her feelings. I don't know about you, but I hate that I'm expected to be able to pick up on every little vibe and hint. I'm not good at that shit. Any of you have similar experiences? How do you feel about being expected to take hints like a psychic and then labeled a creep and a pervert when you don't? If you made it this far into the video, you clearly found it interesting enough to finish. So please, if you want to help motivate me to keep making content like this, please give this video a like. It'll help boost me in the algorithm. The reality is, my impressions are being capped by the YouTube AI because Google has deemed me or my ideas threatening to the status quo somehow. And literally the only way I can break out of this shadow ban is with your engagement, because the powers that be don't want disenfranchised young men to find community and solidarity. And that's why I call this Operation Solidarity. So for Operation Solidarity, comment based in the comments below so that I can know you're a real one who made it to the end. And I appreciate that more than you can possibly imagine. So if you enjoy these brutal rejection stories, I've got plenty of them that are already up and that I have yet to tell. So subscribe if you want to be sticking around for that. And this video here, the algorithm chose it specifically for you, so it's probably something you'd like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.